Not long after they were launched, 40 Starlink satellites fell out of their orbits. These 40 satellites plummeted through the atmosphere and burned up before collapsing on the ground. Nothing like this has ever happened before. And according to Elon Musk, the cost of the satellite's loss is a ticking time bomb that might affect us all. The question now is, what exactly is going on? We'll find out soon enough. Keep watching. Hello and welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we discuss how Elon Musk lost 40 satellites due to a solar storm. First, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss any of our future videos, as we're your #1 source for Elon Musk, Tesla, and SpaceX news. So let's get this started. SpaceX's newest satellite fleet slipped out of orbit. According to an online update from the company, up to 40 of the 49 tiny satellites launched either re-entered the atmosphere or were destroyed. They said that a geomagnetic storm made the atmosphere denser, increasing the drag on the Starlink satellites and ultimately dooming them. Ground controllers attempted to save the small, flat-panel satellites by putting them to sleep and flying them in a way that generated the least amount of drag. Due to the considerable air drag, the satellites were unable to awaken and climb to a higher, more stable orbit, according to the company. The solar storm hit satellites that were only in orbit for a brief period of time. SpaceX sends them into this unusually low orbit to guarantee that any malfunctions return to Earth quickly and pose no hazard to subsequent missions. These recently launched satellites, according to the corporation, pose no threat in space or on the ground. The FCC is still reviewing SpaceX's proposal to launch almost 30,000 second-generation Starlink satellites into new orbital configurations. Nonetheless, the satellite failures illustrate the challenges that have arisen as a result of the introduction of satellite megaconstellations. SpaceX described the missing satellites as a one-of-a-kind occurrence. Intense solar activity such as flares can launch plasma streamers from the sun's corona into space and toward Earth, generating geomagnetic storms. SpaceX's only opponent in the satellite communication sector is OneWeb, a British-Indian company that emerged from bankruptcy in 2020 and is due to launch another 34 satellites this week. It plans to increase commercial service this year. Meanwhile, Amazon is building the framework for its Project Kuiper satellite network in Redmond, not far from SpaceX's satellite manufacturing factory. In comments submitted to the FCC, Amazon cited satellite failures and the likelihood of orbital collisions as considerations to consider when evaluating SpaceX's Gen 2 proposal. Around 200 Starlink satellites were decommissioned after launch, either due to on-orbit failure or purposeful or unintentional deorbiting. But first, let's look at the specifics of what caused the loss of these recent satellites. What exactly are geomagnetic storms? Geomagnetic storms are brief disruptions of the Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere, also known as the magnetosphere, caused by the sun's bursts of radiation and charged particles. As it collides with other planets at tremendous speeds, the surrounding magnetic field deflects the solar material towards the poles. It combines with molecules deeper in the atmosphere, creating auroras that appear as light curtains. Meanwhile, the fast-moving charges create their own intense magnetic field, which causes a fresh set of electrical currents to flow in the ground below. During seasons of strong solar activity, these currents can be powerful enough to overrun entire electrical systems and destroy sensitive electronics. According to previously released naval data, geomagnetic storms prompted the detonation of dozens of sea mines off the coast of Vietnam in 1972. One of the most severe storms, termed the Carrington event, hit in 1859, and it was not soon forgotten. There were tales of telegraph equipment failing and electrocuting operators, as well as an unusually bright aurora. Today, there are concerns that a comparable occurrence might have far-reaching effects on technology and the society that relies on it. A geomagnetic storm, the extent of the 1859 solar storm today, might cost billions if not trillions of dollars in damage to satellites, power grids, and radio communications, as well as widespread power outages that could take weeks, months, or even years to recover from. Power outages of this size could threaten food production. The consequences of a huge geomagnetic storm are enormous for SpaceX and even Tesla in particular. SpaceX's weak points are communications, navigation systems, satellite technology, and radiation dangers. Solar activity has an effect on military detection and early warning systems that operate at high frequencies. Over the horizon, radio monitors aircraft and missile launches from enormous distances by bouncing signals off the ionosphere. During geomagnetic storms, radio congestion can have a substantial impact on this technology. Submarine magnetic fingerprints are also employed as one input to the locating algorithms of many submarine detection systems. Geomagnetic storms can conceal and distort these signals. If communication satellites are damaged, non-terrestrial telephone, television, radio, and internet connections can be affected. The National Academy of Sciences issued a report in 2008 on probable scenarios of widespread disruption during the solar maximum in 2012 to 2013. A solar superstorm could cause months-long global internet outages. A study looked at the robustness of today's internet infrastructure and discussed possible mitigation measures and exceptions such as user-powered mesh networks, associated peer-to-peer apps, and novel protocols. They discovered that today's internet infrastructure was extremely vulnerable to a solar storm. Solar UV radiation is increasing, and geomagnetic storms are heating the upper atmosphere, forcing it to expand. The heated air rises, causing a significant increase in density in satellite orbits of up to 1,000 kilometers or 621 miles. Satellites slow down and shift orbits slightly as a result of the increased drag eventually falling. This explains why 40 Starlink satellites lost contact with the Earth. Low Earth orbit satellites that are not regularly boosted to higher orbits gradually plunge and eventually burn up. Skylab's destruction in 1979 was an example of a spacecraft entering Earth's atmosphere too soon as a result of higher than expected solar activity. Starlink will almost certainly be used for navigation as well. Increased solar UV radiation and geomagnetic storms heat the upper atmosphere, causing it to expand. The heated air rises to satellite orbits of up to 1,000 kilometers, resulting in a large increase in density, or 621 miles. As a result of the increasing drag, satellites slow down and shift orbits, eventually plummeting. This also explains why 40 Starlink satellites couldn't interact with Earth. Low Earth orbit satellites that aren't frequently boosted to higher orbits deteriorate and eventually burn up. Skylab, which was lost in 1979 as a result of higher than expected solar activity, was an example of a spacecraft entering Earth's atmosphere too soon. When solar activity causes sudden changes in the ionosphere's density, satellite signals scintillate, impacting GNSS signals like a twinkling star. The scintillation of satellite signals during ionospheric disturbances is investigated at HARP during ionospheric modification operations. The Chickamauga Radio Observatory has looked into it as well. The Receiver Autonomous Integrity Monitoring System allows GPS receivers to continue to function in the presence of certain false signals, or RAIM. However, because RAIM is predicated on the assumption that the majority of the GPS constellation is operational, it's significantly less useful when the entire constellation is affected by global events such as geomagnetic storms. Finally, the most pressing challenge for SpaceX astronauts remains radiation. The Earth's atmosphere and magnetosphere provide adequate radiation shielding at ground level, but astronauts are vulnerable to potentially lethal radiation poisoning. High-energy particles penetrating life cells can cause chromosome damage, cancer, and other health problems. Large doses can be fatal immediately. Solar protons with energies of more than 30 MeV are very hazardous. Solar proton events, a unique but related type of occurrence, can also produce higher radiation aboard high-altitude airplanes. Despite the fact that the threats are low, flight crews may be exposed several times. Exposure can be monitored and analyzed using satellite instrumentation that detects solar proton occurrences, allowing flight paths and altitudes to be changed to limit the absorbed dose. Ground-level enhancements, also known as ground-level events or GLEs, occur when a solar particle event contains particles with sufficient energy to cause effects at ground level, which are often detected as an increase in the number of neutrons measured at ground level. These occurrences have been found to have an influence on radiation dosage, but they don't significantly raise the risk of cancer. Even so, there's a high danger that SpaceX's ground communication and monitoring systems will be damaged. This vital loss of communication can be fatal for astronauts. Even if it wasn't fatal, it would be a difficult situation. Elon Musk's goals are frequently thwarted by astronomical happenings. That's all we've got for today. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more updates. We'll look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye!